Hey everyone, thanks for joining the Law Schoolers. This is Will, and today we're going to go over everything you should know about registering for the LSAT. So being successful on the LSAT is one of the most important things you can do to be successful when you're applying to law schools. However, you can't take the LSAT without registering for the LSAT. So if you're a first-time test taker, there are probably some questions you have about the LSAT registration that we're hoping to answer. I want to talk about several points, including when to register, how to register. I want to talk briefly about the candidate agreement, the cost of the LSAT, go over some special circumstances such as those who need financial assistance or accommodations, and then how to change the test date if that needs to happen. So first, let's go over when to register. We've talked about this before in another episode, where if you're a junior and you're preparing for the LSAT, you should register to take the LSAT at the beginning and the end of the summer after your junior year. But you should register for the LSAT sooner rather than later. And the reason for this is because you give yourself a deadline, which helps increase your motivation to getting the test done on time. Thankfully, you can register sooner rather than later because the LSAT is online through June of 2023. At least it's probably going to last longer. But because of that, you can register well in advance, whereas before you could only apply a few months in advance. And by doing so, you're going to alleviate a lot of stress. So I would recommend registering for the LSAT sooner rather than later. So let's go over how to register for the LSAT. Well, the registration process is pretty straightforward, but there are several steps that we can walk through, and we have a video on this too if the audio is not going to cut it for you, but we're still going to go over this on audio as well. First, you're going to go to the LSAC website at lsac.org, lsac.org, and you're going to log into your JD account. If it's your first time opening an account, all you have to do is go as if you're logging into a JD account. Select the create an account option. Fill out your information, your username, password, and all of your biographical information, and create an account. Once you're logged in, you're going to hover over the LSAT button and select register. You can also scroll down on your homepage to LSAT registrations and click on register for the LSAT. Once you're on that screen, you're in the registration process. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to agree to the candidate agreement. We'll go over the candidate agreement in just a minute. You're going to select your test date. Don't worry about the day. Don't worry about which week of the month it's going to end up being in. Don't worry about the day of the week or the time of the day when you're selecting that test. And the reason why is because when you get closer to your test, LSAC will give you several options spread throughout a few weeks in the month as your test approaches, and they'll give you more information later. The next thing you're going to be doing is upload a valid test photo. It's going to give you a whole options of what kind of photos are acceptable and what kind of photos are unacceptable. And finally, you're going to confirm your registration details, continue to check out. If you have a fee waiver, you can apply that then there, and you're registered for the LSAT. Let's talk a little bit more about certain parts of this registration process. I mentioned briefly the candidate agreement. So when you register for the LSAT, you're going to sign the candidate agreement, or you're going to accept and certify that you read and agreed and stand by the terms and conditions. This agreement will do two things. First, it confirms that you are the person who are taking the test. No one's going to be taking it for you. You are who you say you are. Second, it also states that you allow the LSAC to send your test scores to law schools, and law schools can request certain information from LSAC, and you're giving them permission to do so. You actually have to agree by this to proceed with the LSAT, so it's nothing to worry about. The cost of the registration is currently set at $215. For first-time test takers, there's also the option to score preview. We'll talk about that more in another episode. But if you choose this option, it's $45 before the test, and it's $75 after the test. Okay, so some of the special circumstances students may be in are those who need financial assistance. If you need financial assistance to take the LSAT, LSAC offers lots of opportunities for you to have a fee waiver, and there's a whole admissions process that you need to go through for that, and I can provide the information of that in a link in the show notes below. Additionally, LSAC will allow students to make accommodations requests. Those will occur after you've already registered, and you need to submit an accommodation request form to LSAC, and you do that on your portal, on your account information, on your LSAC account. If by any means that you need to change your test information, whether it's changing the test date, canceling, or if you want a refund, those are all things that you can do after you've registered as well. Depending on where you are in the deadline, you can request a refund, or if you're past that, you can withdraw from the test. So if you have any situations that may arise, it's better that they arise sooner rather than later. That way you still have the option to get a refund as early as possible. Any of those changes are still going to be made on your LSAC account. Just scroll down to that LSAT registrations on your homepage again, and you'll see some options where you can change the status of your LSAT registration. So that's everything about registering for the LSAT. There are other things that we didn't cover as much, but the LSAC website will cover those pretty thoroughly in their FAQs. Today we talked about when to register, how to register, and we talked about the candidate agreement with that. We talked about cost, talked about how to request financial assistance or accommodation requests, and we talked about changing the test date. That's everything. Thanks, and have a good one. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Law Schoolers. Before I let you go, there are 4 things I want to say. The first thing is if you enjoyed these episodes and if you enjoyed the website, I would invite you to go and join Law Schoolers Pro. And you can do that by going to lawschoolers.com/join. It's a way for you to support us, but there's also a lot of features there that I think you will enjoy. Second thing is that nearly all of our episodes are unedited. The only ones that aren't are pre-law materials, and the reason for that is so you can actually see the legal material in its raw form as I'm learning it as well. The third thing is that the information contained in these episodes are specifically only for educational purposes. They're not to be used as legal advice, and with that, the fourth thing is if it is used as legal advice, we are not liable. That is, Law Schoolers is not liable for any legal outcomes. Thank you again for enjoying the show. Have a good one.